Sometimes the scariest stories don't start with something terrible. They begin with something ordinary. And that's what makes them so terrifying. This is one of those stories. The story begins with Sarah, a quiet college student, moving into her first apartment. The place is old but charming, with creaky wooden floors and windows that let in just enough sunlight to give it a cozy feel. Sarah loves it, especially the small, vintage-looking storage room at the end of the hallway. She imagines using it for storing books, clothes, and holiday decorations. But little does she know that this room will soon hold something far darker. The day after moving in, Sarah is unpacking her boxes when she hears a soft, strange clunk coming from the storage room. It's nothing big, maybe a box settling, she thinks. But as the days pass, the clunks become more frequent and louder, like something is shifting inside the room on its own. One night, after a particularly loud thud, Sarah decides to check it out. Armed with a flashlight, she opens the door. The storage room smells musty, like old wood and dust. She shines the light around but finds nothing unusual. Just some old shelves, her boxes, and a small, tattered doll sitting in the corner. It's an antique porcelain doll, clearly aged and worn. Its dress is stained, and its face is cracked in places, but the most unsettling thing about it is its eyes. They seem too lifelike, too focused, staring straight at Sarah as if it were watching her. She picks it up, feeling a strange chill as she does. The tag on the back reads Annabelle. She wonders why it was left behind and decides to put it back in the corner, not giving it much thought. But over the next few days, things start to get weird. Sarah begins hearing soft whispers at night, whispers that seem to come from the storage room. At first, she brushes it off as her imagination, but then the doll starts moving. She notices it placed in different spots every morning. Sometimes it's on a different shelf. Sometimes it's facing a different direction. And once, it was sitting on her bed when she woke up. This can't be right, she thinks. No one else has access to her apartment, and the doors and windows are always locked. Sarah tries to rationalize it, convincing herself that she must be misremembering. But deep down, she knows something is very wrong. One night, the whispers grow louder, turning into clear voices. Sarah wakes up to the sound of a woman's voice murmuring her name from the hallway. She jumps out of bed and rushes to the storage room. As soon as she opens the door, she feels an icy gust of air hit her. The doll, Annabelle, is sitting in the middle of the floor, its head tilted slightly, eyes fixed on her. Sarah is paralyzed with fear. She grabs the doll, intending to throw it away, but as soon as her hands touch it, the room plunges into darkness. Her flashlight flickers, and she hears footsteps, soft, dragging footsteps approaching her from behind. She spins around, but no one is there. The whispers are now a soft chorus, growing louder and more urgent. It feels like the entire house is closing in on her, and suddenly the doll is ripped from her hands by an invisible force. It crashes into the wall and slumps to the floor, but the eyes, they never lose their grip on her, as if they see her deepest fears. Terrified, Sarah decides to leave the apartment the next day. But even outside, she can feel Annabelle's presence. Strange things happen wherever she goes. Her phone rings in the middle of the night, but when she answers, there's only static. And then, faintly, the same whispers she heard in her apartment. Her friends start to notice her pale complexion and how tired she looks. She doesn't tell them about the doll, who would believe her, but she can't escape it. Every night, she dreams of Annabelle, standing at the foot of her bed, growing larger, its cracked porcelain face distorting into something demonic. After weeks of this torment, Sarah is at her breaking point. She can barely sleep, barely eat, and the doll appears in her dreams every single night, her whispers becoming screams. Desperate, she searches for answers and learns about Annabelle's history. Years ago, the doll belonged to a woman named Margaret, a local figure known for her involvement in the occult. She had been a reclusive widow, feared by the townspeople for her strange rituals and dark practices. Legend has it that she used the doll in these rituals, binding a part of her soul to it before she passed away. The doll was thought to be destroyed after Margaret's death, but somehow it found its way into Sarah's apartment. Margaret had vowed that whoever possessed Annabelle would suffer the same torment she endured in life. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah seeks the help of a paranormal investigator. They decide the only way to rid herself of Annabelle's curse is to return the doll to where it all began, Margaret's old house. now abandoned and crumbling on the outskirts of town. The investigator warns her that the spirit attached to the doll will not go quietly. The final confrontation is terrifying. As they step into Margaret's house, the air grows thick with malevolence. Shadows flicker in the corners, and the walls seem to breathe. The whispers return, louder and more insistent than ever, as Sarah places Annabelle in the center of the room where Margaret once conducted her rituals. The doll's eyes glow red, and the entire house shakes violently. Objects fly off the shelves, and Sarah can feel a dark presence closing in on her. The investigator chants, trying to banish the spirit, but Annabelle fights back, the temperature in the room plummeting as the doll levitates off the ground. In the end, the ritual succeeds, but just barely. The house collapses in on itself, trapping the doll inside. Sarah escapes, but not without scars, both physical and mental. She returns to her apartment, hoping the nightmare is over. But that night, as she lies in bed, she hears the soft, familiar whisper of her name coming from the hallway. Annabelle's curse has not been broken. It has only just begun. Thank you for watching. If you want more spine-chilling stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and hit the like button. But be careful. Sometimes what you watch can follow you home.